Which historical legacies of globalization do you believe have had the greatest impact on our world today? Please be specific and provide evidence in your response.
I believe the historical legacies of globalization that have a great impact on our world today would be through trade. Not only has trade been the use to spread knowledge and ideas, but it has also allowed for political, social, and economic legacies to occur. These legacies include the apartheid, acts of assimilation on Aboriginal people, and the British imperialism in India. Our world has been impacted politically by the legacy of apartheid in South Africa because of political activists like Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela's political legacy impacted our world by voicing the issues of apartheid in South Africa. Political activists like Nelson Mandela also inspired social legacies through anti-apartheid movements. These social movements encouraged people to boycott South African products, creating economic sanctions like trade barriers, which also impacted our world economically. Our world has also been impacted socially by the legacies of assimilation on Canada's Aboriginal people. These legacies of assimilation would include the creation of the Indian Act and residential schools. Today, the impacts of these legacies can be seen in the behavior of the Aboriginal people and their relationship with the Canadian government. The last legacy I believe to have a great impact on our world today would be the economic legacies of British imperialism in India. During the time of their rule, British took over India's rich economy. By the end of the British rule, India's economy was destroyed. However, the legacy of the English language left behind by the British has quickly allowed for India to rebuild its economy. For example, many companies now outsource their work to workers in India for a cheaper price.
What aspect of economic globalization should we be most concerned about?
As our desire for more and more things gets bigger, I think we should be concerned about our overconsumption and the impact it'll have on our world in the future. The main ways in which our overconsumption is impacting our world is environmentally, socially, and politically. At our rate of overconsuming, we would need 1.4 Earths to sustain us. This can also impact our health as our environment becomes more polluted. Our overconsumption can also impact the world socially and politically, as developing nations are deprived of their human rights.
Explain your own personal vision of prosperity. Based on your vision, can we be both prosperous and sustainable? Provide evidence to support your answer.
I think of prosperity like a plant. Like a plant, an economy has basic needs in order to prosper, or in this case, grow. For example, let's say the world's developing nations are represented by dried trees, the Western world by a small garden of flowers, and resources by sunlight and wealth as water. Although the size of the flower is smaller than the trees, the flower has an abundance of water, whereas the trees have little to none. However, just because the flower has more doesn't mean it will grow faster. Therefore, if the basic needs were distributed fairly, then both could grow or prosper.
Based on your lifestyle, what responsibilities do you believe your generation will be asked to fulfill in order to make our world a better place?
As the world's population continues to grow, I think that my generation will have to give up our lavish lifestyle of constantly consuming in order for developing nations to survive. I think we will also have to be more environmentally conscious because after years and years of overconsumption, our global environment will most likely be in trouble. As a way to solve these problems, I think my generation will also have to invent new technologies.
Find one quote you think reflects your attitudes towards globalization. Explain how each quote gives insight into your perspective.
Globalization has shown in the global crisis that we are all in the same boat. If we do not choose wise captains, then the storm will harm us all. San Pani. I think this quote best reflects how I feel about globalization because globalization can be good if we make wise choices, i.e., the leaders of our nation. The leaders of our nation not only have to be able to make important decisions based off of our best interests, but globally as well. For example, a leader of a nation must be able to balance the social, economic, environmental, and political aspects of globalization in order for their nation to prosper during the times of globalization.